Hello, my name is Elizabeth Stanway and I'm an astronomer who enjoys reading and watching science fiction. In my Cosmic Stories blog, I explore the connections between the two, looking at the history of how science is represented in science fiction and at the way science fiction can inform how contemporary science is understood by society as a whole. In this video, I'm going to revisit one of my earlier blog entries and consider Areoforming Earth. Now, the idea that Mars could be made more Earth-like or terraformed has been a popular one in science fiction since the genre began. It's rooted in the historical success of humanity in reshaping its environment around itself. Whether draining malarial marshes, irrigating deserts, or modifying entire planetary environments, there is a confident expectation that humans can transform marginally habitable environments into comfortable places to live. However, for as long as there have been stories of terraforming Mars, there have also been writers asking how humanity might react to attempts to areoform or make Mars-like, or more generally to xenoform or make other Earth. One of the first examples in this genre can be traced back to H.G. Wells and his novel War of the Worlds. In this novel and its adaptations, an invading Martian force starts to spread a red weed, which suppresses native life and acts as a modifying force, rendering Earth more Mars-like. From radio play adaptations of War of the Worlds to modern graphic novels, descriptions of the weed, its effects, and the way it smothers native Earth life have provoked horror and a sense of alienation, which mirrors the desolation experienced by the characters. As Wells described it, all down the line, from there, the aspect of the country was gaunt and unfamiliar. Wimbledon particularly had suffered. The Wandle, the Mole, every little stream was a heaped mass of red weed, in appearance between butcher's meat and pickled cabbage. In the original novel, it is left ambiguous whether the introduction of red weed is deliberate or an example of a biocontaminant, which was carried unwittingly by the ships. Later adaptations have tended to imply that its introduction was deliberate. To 19th and early 20th century readers in Britain, the idea of a technologically advanced race coming to their country and modifying their environment in ways which compromised their lifestyle was deeply shocking. Many commentators, both at the time and more recently, have noted the irony of this. At the time, Britain was an imperial power, which did exactly that in many places around the world. While Wells generally saw British culture as a civilising and positive influence, there is no doubt that he was also commenting on the dangers of abusing a power imbalance and inviting audiences to consider how they would react to having such an environmental modification imposed upon them, whether deliberately or otherwise. A more certainly deliberate attempt at areoforming Earth by native Martians can be found in the early years of the television series Doctor Who. An unfortunate moon base finds itself invaded by the Ice Warriors, native Martians, in the Seeds of Death. Ice Warriors, a reptilian race adapted for low temperatures and low oxygen levels, are the original residents of Mars in the Doctor Who universe. Using transmat or teleportation technology based on the moon, they distribute a life form around the Earth. This spreads as a kind of foam, absorbing oxygen as it goes. This was a deliberate and calculated attempt to reduce the amount of free oxygen in Earth's atmosphere, rendering it into a more habitable environment for the Martians and a less habitable environment for native Earth life. Only a risky sample collection by the Doctor and his scientific analysis finds a solution. Both War of the Worlds and Doctor Who's rendition of Martians shared the common view of the time that Mars was an old planet, its civilizations ancient, and its conditions deteriorating. The distance of Mars from the Sun and its thin atmosphere means that energy is in low supply there, whether extracted directly from the Sun or processed by plant life. For hypothesised Martian aliens, moving sunwards was the best way of finding a more habitable environment. However, Martians are not alone in attempting to modify Earth's environment to suit themselves. Several alien races have attempted to modify Earth's atmosphere to better match their own requirements in science fiction, that is, to xenoform or make other the planet. An interesting, although never actualised plan to xenoform Earth was undertaken by the titular aliens of John Christopher's trilogy of juvenile novels, The Tripods. In this scenario, human societies have been reduced to a low technology level and live under the electronically enabled mental control of the Masters. Initially appearing only as unseen antagonists housed in their three-legged machines, the later books, particularly the middle book, The City of Gold and Lead, develop the characters of these aliens and reveal that their goal is the xenoforming of Earth. While unable to increase the planet's gravity to suit their preferences, they plan to modify the atmosphere to match the thick green fog maintained in their domed cities, and also to raise the global temperature. The composition of this atmosphere is never discussed, although its colour and its toxicity to humans suggests maybe an ammonia or chlorine mixture. Fortunately for the enslaved human race, a group of freedom fighters are able to destroy the alien beachhead before the xenoforming process gets properly underway. Again, Doctor Who provides an example here. In 2008, the Doctor encountered a plot by the Sontarans. Having lost their cloning planet, where they reproduce, they attempt to saturate Earth's atmosphere with clone food by the emission of gases from devices fitted to cars. This will allow them to use the Earth as a site for reproduction, while simultaneously killing off the human population. The episodes used the very effective tool of apparently authoritative BBC-branded news reports, which show iconic buildings around the world swamped amidst the toxic gas. Thus, human achievements are shown to be overwhelmed by this xenoforming effort. The project in this storyline comes close to succeeding, with the pollution reaching lethal levels in city and forming a thick brown fog. Fortunately, the bulk of the gases are confined to the upper atmosphere and flash burn without generating toxic products. This enables the Doctor to intervene and remove the threat. This story is notable in the way it harnesses fear of the very real issue of human pollution, while also warning viewers against assuming an easy fix to anthropogenic or human-generated climate modification is possible. The Sontaran plan is able to proceed as far as it does due to the near-universal adoption of a literally too-good-to-be-true anti-pollution device on vehicles called Atmos. In defeating the plan, the Doctor saves the planet, but at the same time is forcing humanity to recognise that they're going to have to come up with their own alternate solutions in future. Having addressed air, let's turn our attention to Earth. Tade Thompson's recent Wormwood trilogy of novels describes an alien infiltration, which includes spreading a form of microbial life, similar to fungal spores. These are capable of infiltrating both the wider ecosystem and the human nervous system, modifying it to host alien consciousness. These spores are known as xenoforms and represent a deliberately released invasive species. The additional effect of forming a mental internet between humans is accidental and incidental to the alien goal of modifying the Earth's native biology. It nonetheless has a dramatic effect on human populations. Much of the narrative is centred on events in Nigeria, and this trilogy has been positioned within the African futurism genre. I'm by no means an expert in this area and not qualified to comment on these themes in detail, but it's worth noting the different perspective it provides on the alien colonialism, which forms such a theme in xenoforming narratives, going all the way back to War of the Worlds. A final, very different take on xenoforming Earth, this time addressing water, can be found in John Wyndham's novel, The Kraken Wakes. Unlike the stories mentioned above, which focus on Earth's atmosphere and terrestrial biosphere, this story considers an alien race which evolved at high submarine pressures and seeks to colonise Earth's deep ocean trenches. At first sight, this might not seem to require conflict with humanity. However, underwater mining by the aliens and deliberate melting of the ice caps causes a dramatic sea level rise and modifies the deep ocean currents that regulate Earth's surface climate. As a scientist character notes, having settled into the environment best suited to them, these creatures' next thought would be to develop that environment in accordance with their ideas of what constitutes a convenient, orderly, and eventually civilized condition. Military action from humans, in the form of atomic bombing of the deeps, is met first by sinking of commercial and passenger shipping, and then by shrimping expeditions where the aliens harvest the surface dwellers from coastal villages. By the end of the book, major cities, including London, have been flooded and human civilization is crumbling. The aliens have successfully reshaped a large part of Earth to better suit themselves, despite the best humanity could do to prevent it. So, as we've seen, narratives of xenoforming serve a number of distinct purposes in science fiction. First and foremost, they present a challenge that must be overcome by the protagonists, and which can usually be overcome given scientific courage or knowledge. At the same time, they undermine the arrogance of readers in presuming that their technology, culture, and lifestyle are superior, or even worthy of notice by the intruders. They question the ethics of human environment modification by placing humans as the subjects rather than the originators of change. In doing so, they highlight the fragility of the only naturally habitable environment we currently know of, Earth's biosphere. As a result, they feed into dialogues regarding the scientific ethics and risks of environmental modification, which now extend beyond direct impact on humans or similar sentient life. Increasingly, Earth ecosystems already show evidence for the impact of invasive, alien, by which I now mean foreign rather than extraterrestrial, species. These can devastate new environments. The War of the Worlds in particular describes this as true of the Martian red weed, and certainly emphasises the lethal potential of microbial life introduced by accident. Given how early this was recognised, perhaps it's no surprise that astronauts in the Apollo program were quarantined on their return to Earth, or that one of the most interesting job titles in NASA is that of Planetary Protection Officer, responsible both for preventing contamination of Earth by returning missions and for ensuring that space probes are decontaminated before launch, so as to protect the pristine environments they may encounter. Nonetheless, the conversation continues. Within the last few years, extremophile tardigrades from Earth have been deliberately deposited on the Moon. New initiatives have begun pushing once more for human colonisation of Mars. This, together with its practical problems, poses questions whether it is ethical to terraform even a sterile environment to suit ourselves. Science, like science fiction, has no clear idea of the answers to these questions, but they are important ones to consider, and as always, science fiction provides a useful arena in which to explore these possible outcomes. I hope you've enjoyed this video, which was based on an entry in my Cosmic Stories blog from October 2021. I post a new entry to the blog every 2 weeks. If you'd like to read more, or find directions to some of the sources mentioned, the link to this blog entry is in the description, and I'm always very happy to listen to your comments.